Maddie here. I am a lead writer and the deputy editor for Temple of Geek. And we are going to talk about all things The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, here's your spoiler warning. We will be mentioning spoilers throughout this entire live. So if you have not watched any episodes of Season 2, this is your spoiler warning. Here. Hello. Russ and Monica. Whoops, there we go. Hello.
Hello there.
How's it going?
I am great. Happy to be here. How are you today, friend?
I'm good. I'm so good. Hey, Russ, how are you? Yay, we got lots of people popping in. Hey, Emily, how's it going? All right, so Mandalorian Season 2 was all sorts of amazing. I don't even know where to start because it just was filled with so much heart and so much of an incredible story. Feeling better, thanks. Oh, I'm glad. I'm sorry you were feeling bad. Single dad cosplay. That's a bummer. Yeah, I'm glad you feel good.
Yeah, I mean, this whole season, from episode 1 to the end, every single episode has had something impactful, a way to connect. Even the filler episodes, as some will call it, the Ice Planet, like it was little things here and there, whether it was humor, whether it was sadness or cameos. It's just been even greater expectations to meet, seeing as how successful season 1 was, and they knocked it out of the park. They really did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Everyone I've talked to, we all cried in the last episode, many of reasons, but it all comes back to the point of, it's just the old Star Wars and the new Star Wars. This has been the perfect bridge, in my opinion.
Yes.
Of the show.
Yes, I 100% agree. I feel like this show has really brought together the Star Wars cinematic universe and has tied up loose ends. Not saying the loose ends are necessarily a bad thing, because I know a lot of regular people, I guess, I don't know what a better term for that would be, but are movie only fans. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? But to be able to take this incredible show and to tie it into Rebels and to tie it into the Clone Wars. And then we have the Bad Batch spinoff coming, and Fennec Shand is going to be in the Bad Batch. And so it's been really cool to see everything coming together and getting questions answered. Yes, spoiler warning for you guys coming in. We are talking about Mandalorian Season 2. We will be talking about all of the things, including Friday's season finale. And that had major things that if you have not watched, please turn off this live and come back when it's posted as an IGTV video. And so I feel like there were a couple of characters that I wish we had gotten more time with, like Cobb Vanth. I wish we had seen him again. But then again, maybe his story kind of was a one episode,
And I'll tell you this, so we're in spoiler territory now. I'm allowed to say anything, right? Okay.
Yes.
I am 95% convinced that, yes, it was a one episode off for The Mandalorian, but his story will tie into the Book of Boba Fett.
You think so?
I think because Boba Fett, from what we last saw, will be taking over the reins of the smuggler, kind of just bad what's the word? There's a word for it, not underground, but basically the territory of gangsters that Jabba once held and Bib Fortuna did. And he's an outlaw, but he has a town to protect. And I think if Boba's operations start to inhibit progress as a small town, he'll do the same thing that he did with the Sand People and with the Tusken, or not the Tusken Raiders, the Crate Dragon, and he'll try to solve it. And Boba has not officially met Cobb Vanth as far as we know, so they have no allegiances to each other.
Right.
So I think we'll see his story unfold there, but that's just me. And I think he may try to call Mando for help, and Mando will be torn. Who do I help? The guy who helped me get the Boba Fett armor, or the guy who helped me with the child? Right. He has a relationship with both of them.
Yeah.
I think there's some potential for good storytelling, and I hope it's not a one-off character.
That's so interesting. I didn't even think about that, like, at all. That's a really awesome theory. And if you guys who are watching have anything you want to say, any questions, any theories about The Mandalorian or any of the spinoffs or anything, feel free to put them in the chat. Or if you're watching this on a replay, put them in the comments and let us know. And we'll be happy to answer or to respond. Again, as you're popping in, full spoiler territory. But yeah, so along the lines of with the Book of Boba Fett, I have seen 2 theories floating around, and I fully believe one and not the other. One of them is the Book of Boba Fett is season 3, and the other one that I've seen is the Book of Boba Fett is the new series. Oh, look, Portrait of a Fangirl just asked the question. So do you think Book of Boba is a spinoff or a new character or a new chapter? I think it's the spinoff. I think that during the Investor Day announcements, they conveniently left out the title of the Boba Fett series. We know we were getting a series, and so I think this was their way of confirming it. That's what I think.
I agree. I feel like since he's not a Mandalorian, to make his story the season 3 would be very off-putting. That's my opinion as well. So personally, I think Mando season 3 will focus on the Darksaber incident, but we can save that for whenever you're ready to talk about it. But
hey, let's do it.
I'll say though, I do think Boba's story will be standalone series. I don't know how long of a show it'll be, but I'm in the same boat as you. I think season 3 of Mando though, we got some problems.
Yes.
Bo-Katan was not happy the last time we saw her.
No, no, she was not. Portrait of a Fangirl says, I want an official press release. Yeah, hopefully we'll get something from Disney Plus confirming one way or another, like what'll happen. Love Me, My Umbrella says, agreed. Are you agreeing that Bo-Katan is pretty upset, or are you agreeing about the press release, or all of the above? But yeah, Bo-Katan was... she, like, you can see the conflict. Like, she wanted to, she wanted the Darksaber because obviously she needs the story, which is interesting. And I understand that that's like their lore, that's like their culture, where they have to tell this incredible story to have the throne. Otherwise you're like Moff Gideon said, she's just a pretender. But you could also see that she was like, okay, well, I came here to save the child. I kind of did what I wanted to do, and now I have this other thing that like needs to get done. So yeah, I think that'll be season 3 is the resolution.
And the worst part for me is for Rebels fans here, I'm going to hit some Rebel spoiler territory. So you got a chance if you want to jet, now's the time. But season 4, we see Sabine hand off the Darksaber to Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan fully accepts it. A lot of what I've seen now in discussion-wise is that was what she did in that moment during the original trilogy era. She broke protocol, and Mandalore fell again, as we can see, because right now the Mandalorians are divided once more. Because my first thought was, well, if she did this once, why won't she again? And I don't think she wants to break protocol again, because last time she did, her planet fell. And so she's not going to take any chances. And if that requires her having to follow tradition in order to fulfill that role again, I think, and I also think Mando's fulfilled his purpose of delivering Grogu. So now the other half is, well, does he just want to go back to bounty hunting, or does he want to find a greater purpose? Does he want to be the one to combine Death Watch and the traditional Mandalorians and unite Mandalore? And my discussion last night with a friend was, does Bo-Katan prioritize uniting her people or securing her power?
Right.
But ultimately, if Din can do the same thing, then her priority should be uniting her people. And it says that's it. But the Darksaber is a position of power, like Gideon says. So you almost have to wonder from a character's point of view, like, is she doing it? Does she have more in mind for her long-term career as Mandalore's leader than what she's letting on? Again, it could be the selfless, I want our people united, or I want to be the one to unite and rule for a while. Right. So it sets up some room to see where is she going to take this, and how will she grow as a character as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I totally agree. Yeah, let me scroll through the comments real quick. Let's see here. Like we said, if you're popping in, I'm going to constantly give spoiler warning alerts. We are in full Mando and Rebels and Clone Wars and all of the spoilers. See, Love Me My Umbrella says, I half think we are done with Mandalorian. I don't think we're done. I think we have at least another season. I personally could watch like 6 more seasons of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
With the way that they're writing and the cast, I mean, I could watch it forever. Yeah, uniting the people is a bigger deal, Portrait of a Fangirl says. And then, love how Din never wanted to be the main character. Now he's smack in the center. I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, I just want to do my job and bounce. And then here we are where he's like crying because he has to hand off this bounty that he was paid for. Like season 1, it was just like, look, we want this thing alive. Bring it to me. Okay, well, oh, crud, they're probably going to kill this kid or whatever this is. Let me take it back to whoever needs it. And that was kind of going to be like his, all right, I'm done. And then we get zero hesitation of him removing his helmet to say goodbye. Whereas like in the episode before, when he had to get his face scanned, he was full blown, like totally hesitating, so uncomfortable with removing his helmet. You know, it was like an absolutely, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then we get a, well, heck yeah, I'm taking my helmet off, you know, like, goodbye, I'll see you again, you know, and just like instant tears. If you guys, when you guys are watching or when you're watching the replay, give us an emoji or something if you cried during that scene.
Let me put an emoji in the chat then, because I've got about, like, this actually was me. I'm going to drop 3 emojis in the chat. That was me. It was a smile and then just a single tear shed right here. And it kept going because honestly, you're absolutely right. You saw the anxiety that Din had in the previous episode. He even attempts to get a face scan with the helmet on.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, if I don't have to do this. And
right.
Then he has no hesitation of pulling it off. It's how uncomfortable he looks. He has to sit at the table and eat food or whatever, conversate with that cat. And you can see his shoulders just kind of in a sense of, like almost as if you're visiting a friend who brought all of their friends over for a party and you're that barbecue, like, oh man, this is very awkward. But it's the same way. He doesn't know how to interact in this because he'd never done that.
Right.
It's the same in season 1. We saw his helmet. He almost shot IG-11 because of it.
Right.
And it means a lot to him. And like you said, he's grown. It went from taking this bounty and getting that Beskar to, I'm going to take my helmet off because tradition means nothing. This is my child. This is my child, adopted speaking, but like he treats it as his own, and it's a beautiful thing. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
We all cried when he had to.
Yes.
But,
yeah, can't wait for the Book of Boba Fett. Yes, I can't wait either. The lesson I take away is I need to watch all of Clone Wars and Rebels. Yes, you do. I still haven't recovered from the baby touching his face. I know, and it's like as a parent, like I don't know how many of you who are watching are parents, but like having your baby reach out and touch your face, like willingly, not like the involuntary motions, but when they're old enough to actually touch your face, is so emotional. And so that I'm gonna cry thinking about it.
Oh no!
Just like, that like that moment is just so sweet. Yes, and all of the tears emojis. Oh, I didn't cry, but my heart melted. That's okay. I emote huge, and so like when I watched it on Friday, I get up at 5 a.m. so I can watch it without my 5-year-old, so I can watch it in peace. But that also means that the moments that we all scream and cheer, I have to like do it in a blanket, right? Otherwise, I'm going to wake up my child. And so I was sobbing into a blanket on Friday. And then I watched it again last night. And I was just, it was like big bubbling, crying, just, I'm like, man, I don't know how many times, like, I want to watch it over and over because, I mean, the whole ending is just incredible, but it's still like,
Let me be honest. I have watched the last 10 minutes over 20 times, maybe 30. I have actually count to the point that I'm convinced they time traveled to get past Mark Hamill and just put him in that one scene because CGI no longer bothers me. The first moment I saw it, I thought, well, it's like Tarkin in Rogue One, Peter Cushing. Obviously, he passed long ago, but they did the best they could. First time I watched it, I noticed it. Maybe my eyes are just going bad now because now I look and I'm like, well, hey, that's Mark Hamill.
Hey, yeah.
How's he looking so good 40 years later? But
right?
it's jarring because our mind already knows to expect that it can't be Mark Hamill. But the more I've watched it, the more I've ignored the fact that I know that's coming. And honestly, I will tell you, I cannot see a difference. He honestly looks about as good as his 1983 self.
Right.
And again, I think that helps in the emotional watchings. As I keep watching, I keep crying into a pillow as well because I keep seeing that same character that a lot of people grew up with, a lot of people saw in theaters. I have seen so many parents on TikTok that their kids record them crying because Luke Skywalker comes and then they're crying in turn because the Baby Yoda or the Grogu and the Din Djarin they've been growing up with as younger adults in Star Wars, now they're crying because he's touching the face and he's, everything. This show's really brought it together, all the fans, in a way. And I don't think that Star Wars is divisive myself, but something that happens. This show, I've not heard really many people complain about it. And I really love that about this fandom right now. We're all
yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say that too. Like my dad is where I get my geekiness from. Like he, Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, like all, Babylon 5. I mean, I grew up with all of the hardcore geeky shows. And so he's obviously super into Star Wars. And then my mom likes it, but it just never really clicked with her. But now that with the Mandalorian, she loves it. She's like, I get it, because it's like, it's very, this is what's happening, this is what's coming. You know what I mean? It's not as abstract necessarily as the films could be for some people. But like you said, like it's really brought people together who may not necessarily like certain movies, but everyone's like, well, heck yeah, Pedro Pascal and Baby Yoda, what's not to like?
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's such a bridge where the original content, I mean, in old canon, and I'm going to geek out for a lot of you viewers, so stand by because this is going to get bad. We really never had like a Baby Yoda, and we never really had a Mando focused show or content. They were in it, but they weren't the focus. These two concepts together, brand new, original. Hey, let's have a Mandalorian escort a force sensitive Yoda species child to the Jedi. And then what they've done, they have reintroduced concepts from old canon. And that's the things like my parents and their friends grew up on were the old canon books from the 90s. In fact, this season they name dropped Thrawn. Yeah, he was in Rebels. But for these people who want the live action and don't want the more kid-centric shows, wow, they just dropped one of the most popular characters when I was a teenager, when I was a young adult. So it was, again, really done away. Dark Troopers from the Dark Forces 2 video game in the 90s. At that point, when I saw them, I thought Kyle Katarn, who some of you watching may know, I thought he's going to be the Jedi. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I don't even need an explanation. Just throw them in there. Throw every because they've got 30 years of material to work from.
Yeah. And see, I didn't know that thing about the Dark Troopers. I didn't know that they were an old canon thing.
Yeah, there were, and the funny part is they called them Phase 3. So in old games, there were multiple phases, and you got to see them, you got to fight them. And in fact, I'm pretty sure Luke Skywalker in old canon fought Dark Troopers. So we actually got to witness something from old canon be reintroduced. And I think for a lot of old fans who felt like the franchise maybe didn't cater to a lot of those old concepts, it's a nice refresher to say, hey, we're paying attention. We want to make new fans feel invigorated and included and are able to watch shows and not have to follow a lot of little details, but we're going to throw these in for you because those mean a lot to you as a fan. And that's what I like, if that makes any sense.
That makes 100% sense. That totally makes sense. I love that. I'm going to read some comments real quick.
Of course.
Yeah, they did a great job with Mark Hamill's face. I think so too. And I think it's amazing how far CGI has come. Portrait of a Fangirl. My kid hated the episode because he thought Luke stole Mando's baby. He's 9 and Mandalorian is his Star Wars. Poor buddy.
Oh no.
That's so sweet and so sad. And it's interesting too, like Mandalorian is also like my son's Star Wars. You know, he's 5 and so he can't really sit still for the entire episode. But to him, I feel like his favorite Star Wars characters, like besides like Darth Vader and Kylo Ren and all of them, he loves Boba Fett. And so anytime he sees Mandalorian armor, he just assumed it was Boba Fett. So like we would go to Star Wars events and like the Mandalorian mercs would be there and he would say, look at all the Boba Fetts, right? And so I was like, not quite, but you know, yes. And so like for him, when he first started watching The Mandalorian, he was like, is that Boba Fett? And I said, no, baby, he's just The Mandalorian. Like that's not Boba Fett. And then when Boba Fett got introduced this season, the happy dance he did was so pure and wholesome. And then like when we first see the Slave One, I didn't say anything. I just was like, Ryan, look. And he turned around and he goes, is that Boba Fett's ship? And like my geek mom like heart just like exploded. I was so proud of him. I was like, oh my gosh, he recognized, and it was like the back of the ship. I was like, of all the ships to recognize, you know what I mean? But I feel like that was all of us.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Every layer of fan from the originals who grew up with Boba. I have a coworker who he grew up, I think his first one he watched was Empire Return of the Jedi. And I asked him about how when they reintroduced Boba, and he said that was amazing. And the prequel fans like us who grew up with the prequels more, we knew Tamara Morrison as Jango. And of course we knew Boba being a clone. We could associate the two.
Right.
So, and then for like people like your son, like the younger generation who got to see all these stories, for them, just seeing that character back for another round of storytelling, that's 3 generations worth of storytelling in one character. Yeah. And we get new direction now. Fennec Shand, what's he going to be doing on Tatooine? Is he going to be bringing law and order or more chaos? Because I said earlier about the Hutts and the syndicates, but who knows? Maybe Boba may actually become a good guy in a way. And so, I mean, I think we all happy danced when your son did, because I know I sure did. I mean, I saw the Slave One and I put on my Mando helmet immediately and just enjoyed a, you know. Because we all grew up with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, well put. All right, for those of you popping in, we are talking all things Mando and then some, all the spoilers. So just be ready for us to ruin everything for you if you have not watched Mandalorian season 2. Gotta go, but this was fabulous. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. Yeah, I agree, and I think it'll be really interesting because Boba Fett. Oh, there you are. Boba Fett.
I'm back. Sorry.
No, you're all good. Boba Fett was kind of like a work for yourself. Like he wasn't a bad guy, but he wasn't a good guy. You know, it was just like, hey, who's going to pay me? Right. I'm going to go do this. Right. But then we kind of see him as the good guy in The Mandalorian because he was like, I want my armor, but I'm also going to help you because I said I would, you know, so he's a man of his word. And so, like you said, like, it'll be really interesting to see how they portray him in the Book of Boba. You know, is he just going to be, I'm working for myself and whatever works well for me is what I'm going to do, whether it's moral or not, you know, or, you know, maybe he has a moral compass now.
Well, and I think I watched the Clone Wars last week. I was catching up on a lot of episodes to make some connections, and season 2, we see him integrate Mace Windu's assault craft, like the Venator ship. And essentially he was trying to pose as part of the clone cadets to go in and kill Mace Windu for revenge for his father. Right. You see that the entire episode arc, he does not want anyone to die but Mace Windu. Right. The clones Aura Singh was like, well, we've got to scrap these guys, and he does not want to do that. He doesn't want to shoot any of the clones on screen when they're trying to threaten Mace Windu over the holograms, and he doesn't want Plo Koon to get killed when he knows Aura Singh's going to kill him. All of these moments, you see that Boba does have a moral compass of, I don't want to kill just because I can. I will if I have to, and ultimately, I have to look out for myself. I mean, we see in Empire, he really just wants Han so he can get the bounty. He just wants money. It's like you said, he may have a moral compass as we go on. And Fennec Shand may be that guiding moral compass for him as his second in command.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We don't know enough about her to know if she's like out for herself or if she's a good person just trying to make her way through the galaxy as well. We just don't know, but a lot of room for storytelling, and I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And I'm really excited that we get her in Bad Batch. So we're going to continue to see more of her. Portrait of a Fangirl. How awkward if Boba had run into, are you talking about Luke? I've seen so many memes where it's like Boba's sitting in the Slave One waiting and he sees the X-Wing. He's like, bye. Like, I don't want to be here.
I saw the TikTok of one where you see Boba heading out and Luke comes in and Luke looks at him with a puzzled look and Boba just smile and wave and he just goes, what the? I have not stopped laughing at that. It's so good. But when we found out it was Luke, I kind of wished Boba was there. I wanted to see if there was going to be a conflict, or if it was going to be, oh hey, you're that guy I knocked into a Sarlacc pit, and hey, the guy who knocked me into the Sarlacc pit. Okay, so we're here now. But yeah, I mean, I think that Boba. I think there's going to be a lot of storytelling, and I want to see him grow. I don't want to see him just be out for himself. I want to see struggles presented to him in a way that, hey, what would my father do? And if he would do the wrong thing, how can I be my own person?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so as far as like with Luke Skywalker, do you think we'll see more of him in season 3? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So I think if we do, it will be another one-off scene. It will probably be when Grogu is completing his training. I think he will contact Mando, or Mando will be able to get in contact with him, goes to the planet, and decides, hey, okay, well, Grogu's done with his training. Like, what's the next step? Do I need to helicopter Dad, or is Grogu going to go do his own thing? So I think we're going to see Luke there. I also think we are going to get a Ben Solo cameo if he does go to the temple to pick up Grogu. And I think that will be another good tie-in into the sequel trilogy. But yeah, I think we'll get one more scene out of him. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too, because I feel like, I know the internet was like, we need to hire Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker, but he's super busy. He is Bucky right now. I don't think he's going to be Luke Skywalker. So I think so too. I think in order to have Luke Skywalker again, it'll have to be the same guy who played him with the CGI mask for a 2-minute or 3-minute moment with Mando. And I really love the idea of Mando as a helicopter dad. I just had this image of him just like standing in the back, like with his arms crossed, like just kind of watching, and like Luke looking over like, can I help you? No, I'm just watching. It's like, all right, well, Grogu can't focus because you're here. You need to step out, please. Like, totally like.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of TikTok comments that like say once his training's done that Luke will have to give Mando a call about his report card progress. Say, this is where your son's at right now. You know, he made a C- in force push. What's bad at? And you're right. He probably will be like in the corner, maybe trying to call him every 10 minutes. Like, hey, is my son okay? Does he need his little fish eggs that he's been eating? I got I can get.
Don't forget, this kid eats all the time.
Yeah, like he got flu like the Moen, whatever those cookies were.
The
like
cookies, like the macarons. That's what they look
the
like.
macarons. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I hope we get Luke again, but enough where it doesn't take away from anything. They did it great with this episode. I know a lot of people were anti-Luke until he showed up, and I've not seen a single person complain about him now, which is great.
Right.
But it wasn't enough to take away from the story, which is Mando and Grogu, and that was, and that's just what they have to do again.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. All right, let me see if I missed any comments. Let's see here. Remember when we thought it was going to be a show about a battle-worn gunslinger and it turned out to be about fatherhood? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I thought I saw something on here about Moff Gideon. Scrolling. Moff is clever. He would screw Bo like that. Yeah, I think so. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with Moff. You know what I mean? I know that Kara said that he knows a lot, and so she wanted to get information from him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, like, what kind of information is she looking for? You know, because I know, like, it's the rise of the Empire, or like leading into the First Order kind of a thing. I'm not entirely sure where we are with the Republic and the Empire at this point. I know obviously we saw the explosion of the Death Star 2 and kind of regressing from what I was originally thinking, because this just popped into my head, but like, I think it was really cool to see the repercussions of the second Death Star exploding. You know what I mean? Like, to see in that first episode where Cobb Vanth was talking about, like, yeah, we watched the Empire fall. However, this is what happened when the Empire fell. You know what I mean? Because like in episode 6, we get the dancing and all the planets are partying because the Empire's gone, and, you know, all this stuff. And while all that's great, here's what happened on other planets that were not so fortunate to just be able to start partying. You know?
Well, and that's a thing. Like, we had this discussion last night, me and some friends. The stability factor. Yes, it's an oppressive government, but it's a stable one. With stability, you get crime lords rising. You've got the underworlds of planets rising. And that's a big thing that in Star Wars, Solo, a Star Wars story, the whole their story is that, hey, we're right now, the Empire's kind of doing their thing. They're still managing, but we can work around this. The rebellion's kind of forming, so the Empire's distracted by the rebels. Well, like you said, the Death Star 2, fast forward to them blowing it up. Yeah, it looks great on Endor, and a couple other planets, like you see the Gungans going around like, oh, we won. And it's like, that's great. But like a lot of other planets, the Imperial presence was all that kept them safe. It may have not been the most glorious way to live, but it is that stable factor that a country's government right now fell, it would be a lot of conflict, and the average citizen would not be as safe without that. It's actually concepts I would like to see introduced more as their own shows. Like, okay, our world was an imperial world or a separatist world, maybe after the fall of the Republic, and like, how did they navigate around this governmental change? Did the Republic leave them after, like the New Republic? Did they just say, oh, you're an Outer Rim world? We're just going to cut Maria. Like, we got to focus on the core worlds right now and restructure our government. Man, I'm nerding out right now, but this is the perfect place to do it.
Perfect place,
yeah, but no, I do think that you hit the nail on the head. The second Death Star destruction was both great and terrifying. We definitely need more content about that. Like, into the everyday citizen's life of how do you navigate? You had so many governmental changes in the past 20 years. Like, maybe it's better if you don't have one at all and just let the average people, the average planets, just govern themselves and stop with this chaos. But I don't know.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. Like I was starting to say, and then my brain had more to think about. With Kara, like, what is she looking for to get from Moff Gideon? You know, because obviously he had the Darksaber, so he had plans to do something with it. You know what I mean? Like, he was creating clones with the midichlorians, which I also think is kind of cool that they reintroduced the idea of midichlorians. I think that was a nice little tie into the prequels. But you know, what were his ultimately, was he trying to rebuild the Empire? Like, I still am not quite sure like what his plans were.
So to me, and I think episode 4 of this season helped me get an idea. When they go to the Imperial lab that they think is just an facility out there in the middle of nowhere, we see those clones. Mm-hmm. I'm 80% convinced it's Snoke and 20% convinced it was pure Palpatine clones that just didn't work out, but they tried it in other places so he'd have more bodies stored elsewhere. Mm-hmm. For me, I think that his ultimate plan was to get blood as much as possible and to try to work for Palpatine in the Outer Rim. And I think that when he gets tortured in season 3, he is going to be pressed for that information, and he'll get out of saying it, obviously, because it was a total shock in Rise of Skywalker. But that's what he's going to hint at. Mm-hmm. He's going to hint at, oh, well, there is a power greater than any of you all know, and it is my job to fulfill this power's request. Like, the Empire cannot falter again. That's my assumption, is that he had this dark saber because I think he wanted to bring more forces, Mandalorians, into the umbrella of the First Order. And by First Order, I should probably say the Sith Empire that Palpatine's building. I read another theory that he was using the M cells to try to turn himself Force sensitive. I don't know the validity, but it would make sense why he had a lightsaber. He wanted the next Vader.
Right.
I could see that too, but I'm clinging toward, my personal opinion, I'm clinging more towards he's working for Palpatine and he's trying to stabilize his ability to be able to be a clone and like reign in the next Empire of the Final Order. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think that that's what he's doing. It's like, I'm working for Palpatine. This is what I'm doing. I don't think he was trying to make himself Force sensitive. I think if he had tried to do that, he would have said something. Because he was already talking about how he's like, I already have his blood. I'm already doing with it what I need, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think at least I would have hoped if he had done so, we would have seen what that looked like. But he didn't use the Force during that epic fight scene between him and Din, which was just incredible. And so, we didn't see any of that. So I don't think he was doing it for himself. I think, like you said, he's working towards the, rise of a new order and empire and kind of a thing. Portrait of a Fangirl says, it's what makes the Imperial pilot from Rogue One so interesting. So going back to what we were talking about with the Empire, like he was just a pilot with a job, but the Empire provided a job. What did he risk? Family to take Jin's dad's message. Yeah, you're right. That was his job. He was just like, I'm a pilot. I'm working for the Empire. This is what I do, And so, and like you said, he had to risk everything because he was betraying his employer to send a message. And so, I think that's super, super interesting. And that's one other reason why I love Rogue One. I know this is totally a tangent real quick. Yeah. But like Rogue One also showed us a little bit of like, this is what's happening while the first Death Star is being built. Like, this is what we're seeing with the Empire. And then with the Mandalorian, we're kind of also seeing that too, where it's like, okay, well, now the Empire has fallen, but also there's a new evil rising, Absolutely.
And I think, for me, I love to see Imperial perspectives because really, if you look at both sides, the average Imperial citizen or worker doesn't know that they're evil. In fact, look at episode 4. Luke wanted to transfer his application to the Academy, the Imperial Academy. He wanted off the rock whatever it took. And for them, it would just be like the military in their own country that they live in. Yeah. Whether that military force is evil or not, again, from a certain point of view. And for him, it was just like, well, this is pretty much all I've got. In the Thrawn book, Eli Vanto, I won't spoil a lot, but I mean, he joins the Empire, but he doesn't see it as evil. It's just kind of what's in place. And so that pilot, I think Rook Brody, I can't remember the character's name for sure. He took Jyn Erso's dad's message and was like, I've got to risk this because they saw the true evil that was happening. The deaths. They saw what potential that could lead into, and that would be catastrophic for the galaxy. So But for the average Imperial, no, they didn't know what was going on.
Well, and that's kind of like with Mayfeld. Like, he was Imperial, and when Kara was like gonna beat him up about it, he was like, look, that was a long time ago.
Yep.
You know, and then for him to sit across from, I think that was his commanding officer who just didn't recognize him.
Yep.
And he was like, was it worth it? My whole platoon died. Seriously? And so, like, in the moment, he was probably, devastated that his fellow troopers or, you know, officers, whatever he was, were killed. But he was like, that's just the duty. But then he's had time away from working for the Empire that now he's like, no, it wasn't worth it. You know, thousands and thousands of people died. It wasn't worth it. And can we talk about how he was just like, yeah, I know, boom, and just started this like riot in the middle of this Imperial, like, it was, and then the look on Din's face was just like, oh, we're really doing this now. Like, this is how we're getting, like.
Yeah. Say that that moment I texted a buddy and I was like, I'm the trooper who was in the lunchroom getting that extra Jello cup who's just standing there's some conflict. It's like a Skywalker. It's just like you walk into some conflict and you're just like, oh man, why am I here? I know what's gonna go wrong. Like, it's just like, oh, but yeah, I mean, you didn't expect it, but then you saw from an ex-Imperial's eyes, like, he saw the things that went wrong. He referenced Operation Cinder, which is a Battlefront 2 campaign storyline. Yeah. That was like kind of the miniature version of a Death Star. They're basically just killing planets in a different way that they can. And it took a toll. Even the citizens and the workers were starting to realize this Empire is not what I thought it was. And then again, the Republic. I mean, we look at that. The Republic wasn't what it once was. The older Republic, I should say, like the ones with Yoda and Mace Windu. Like, it morphed into something that wasn't helping the citizens. And I bet the New Republic, if people read the books, it kind of was doing the same thing. These government systems over and over just they're not good for their people. And, yeah, like at this point, I don't know, let the planets govern themselves. I think that's what Leia wanted in the books. And I'm like, I'm on now. Let them manage themselves. Yeah. The central government's not helping its citizens, and it just leads to more chaos. Right. But they say Bodhi, by the way. Bodhi was the pilot's name.
The pilot's name, yes, and everyone was shouting Bodhi. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We stand Bodhi here. Yes. All right. Anyone in the comments or in the chat, like, let us know your favorite Mandalorian season 2 moments. Again, full spoiler alert. We have about 3 more minutes to chat. And so it just when I talk to people about this season finale, it was the most Star Wars of a Star Wars episode that we could have gotten. I feel like obviously Mandalorian is Star Wars, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you're a Star Wars fan, you know what that means. Like, it was the most Star Wars of this show.
It was.
You know what I mean?
Honestly, it hit all the boxes. It checked all the boxes for me. It did a way in which you could have a nostalgic Star Wars storytelling perspective. You also showed the progressive themes you've been trying to include in your franchise. You know, I loved that. If you saw Mando's crew, and this was actually brought up to me by Tay Tyrell in the chat here, he had an all-women crew with him.
Yeah, that was so badass.
It was. Those are themes that, you know, older fans of the franchise, you know, that wasn't as present as often. New fans of the franchise, those are things that are very important. Progressive themes are very important, and those storytelling aspects that, you know, the older Star Wars of, like, the Luke coming in and just chopping down dark troopers and them having these nice battles and the whole, just the little things of aesthetics and who's fighting who. And overall plot, Boba having to fight a Mandalorian, it just felt like you had all these legacy characters with these new characters, old themes, new themes, everything integrated in a nice episode with a nice bow on top. The bow being R2-D2.
Yes. Yes, that was one of the things I texted you too, was like, that was just like icing on this whole freaking cake. Like, I was already crying. And then to hear the beeps and then him and Grogu just like vibing together was just like happy tears. Well, oh my gosh, that was incredible.
Have you seen the theory that Grogu probably knows R2 from the prequels? Really? Because R2 was present with Anakin. Grogu, a Jedi trainee during the prequel trilogy. So the reason R2 got very jumpy is probably because he knew him.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yes, R2-D2 was such a joyful moment. Okay, that theory like is blowing my mind right now. Oh my. Yes, the side-eye emoji, portrait of a fangirl. Yes, like. Oh my gosh. Oh man, yeah. That season finale was a perfect episode, and I'm super bummed we have to wait a year, but this is life. And then we get the Book of Boba Fett, and it's just a good time to be a Star Wars fan. You know, it's a good time.
They've done a great job. I love it so far.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect place to end this live.
Okay.
Thank you, Cody, for joining me and geeking out for a little bit. Thank you guys for joining. And again, if you guys are watching this on the replay, go ahead and post in the comments your favorite moments from the